Kia ora, good evening. Southland rivers are expected to return to significantly or extremely low flows by next week. With no significant rain forecast for several days, river levels are expected to drop again. Environment Southland says a small number of irrigators have been able to resume taking water, but will have to stop again when river levels drop back. 27 extraction consents and 2 discharge consents are currently suspended. Council is holding a briefing on Tuesday for farming leaders and advisors, environmental groups and others interested in the impact of the extended dry period. Land and soil scientist George Ledgard says conditions have left the ground very dry.
This dry spell, in terms of historical impact, some of our soil moisture for this time of year is the driest on record at our sites. Our sites have been distributed throughout Southland, and most have been running for about the last 5 to 6 years. So in terms of for this time of year, it's actually been one of the driest periods. However, this time last year we were obviously quite moist, but that dry period that we had before Christmas, early January last year was drier than it is at the moment in terms of soil moisture conditions. So from a farmer's perspective, the dry that we're getting now is very similar to what we had last summer. In fact, it might have a lesser impact considering that it's not affecting crop establishment and strike rate and things like that.
In terms of recovery, how long is it going to take for things to get back to where they should be?
I mean, that's all dependent on rainfall, obviously, but if we go back into a normal sort of autumn pattern for rainfall, it won't take long. Our days are shorter, so we're going to get lower evapotranspiration, so any moisture that falls on the soils will stay in the soils, and even after that little wee rainfall event the other day, it still hasn't dropped. Soil moisture conditions haven't dropped as to prior that rainfall event. So yeah, if we get some decent rain, it's going to recharge soil moisture back up to sort of near field capacity, possibly in a couple of months. You know, traditionally by June we're looking at soils up around field capacity, which is where all your available air spaces are full.
Southland remains under a total fire ban, although the fire risk has fallen from very high to moderate. A total fire ban came into effect last Thursday, and while rain over the weekend helped, a little more is needed. Southern Rural Fire Authority Principal Rural Fire Officer Mike Grant says it's not known how long the ban will remain in place. He says there have been only a handful of people breaking the ban, and overall he's pleased with the public's behaviour. The ban means that no one can light any fires in the open and suspends all existing fire permits. New Zealand Aluminium Smelter's General Manager is to leave the smelter. Ryan Kavanagh has been General Manager since 2009 and will leave at the end of next month, moving to a Pacific aluminium mine and refinery in Australia's Northern Territory. The interim role of Acting General Manager will be taken by Stuart Hamilton. Pacific Aluminium Smelter's Chief Operating Officer Brian Cooper says Mr Kavanagh's new appointment reflects the excellent job he's done at Tiwai. Mr Cooper says the smelter's power negotiations with Meridian Energy are progressing and this work will continue. Monthly police checkpoints continue to catch drivers with children under 5 secured with just a seatbelt on, or worse, with no restraint at all. Children are to be restrained in a car seat until the age of 5, but the New Zealand Transport Agency is proposing increasing this age to 7. The most common problems, according to Invercargill Plunkett, are loose harnesses and incorrect routing of seatbelts. Just under a third of Southland children are not properly protected in vehicles due to poorly fitted car seats. Southland Plunkett car seat rental scheme manager Catherine Impleman says it's an ongoing issue.
The problem we have is that about 30% of children aren't in their car seat correctly, so either the car seat isn't fitted correctly or it's not adjusted correctly for the child.
She says although the majority of children are in restraints, the problem is many aren't fitted correctly, essentially rendering them useless. She says every car seat is different, making it difficult to give overall advice.
Very commonly people aren't sure what to do. They all install quite differently, so it's really difficult for families. The instruction books could be 50 pages long, and we all know we don't read the instruction book until we can't do anything else. And some of the instruction books aren't very clear. And car seats are all different, as are cars, so you can fit it in one car and not in another.
Plunkett and other agencies have staff trained to fit car seats correctly, and many people do take advantage of the service. We asked some parents if they'd sought professional help when fitting children's car seats.
Well, I did it myself, but I got someone to show me how to do it.
No, my husband put it in, yeah. But I think Plunkett checked it out.
It's been checked by Plunkett, yes.
No, we just clipped it into the standard seat belts and so forth that it's meant to go in.
Mrs Impelman says if there is a crash or a sudden stop, children with non-professionally fitted car seats are at risk and may not be as protected as they could be. She also says car seats that are too big or too small for children are a common problem. Parents we spoke to had mixed understanding of when children should have their car seat changed.
Until he's too big for it, they've got to be a height on it, and then we put him into a booster seat and so forth, and then seat belts for the rest of his life. Till
they're 148 centimetres, I think it is. So both the seats that we've got both convert into booster seats and things like that until they reach that height.
I think it just depends on each individual child. My understanding is the weight of the child and the height of the child.
Plunkett says they work with families to make sure the harness is the best fit for individual children and how it can be adjusted as they grow. Ensuring children are as protected as possible in vehicles is the driver's responsibility, and suggest carers take advantage of the professional fitting service. Seeking professional help on installing children's car seats is free. Margot Sutherland, South Today News. Stay with us. Coming up after the break, from possum hunter to global clothing mogul, we catch up with Davey Hughes. Welcome back. Farm sales rose more than 11.5% nationally in the year to February. There were 1,445 farm sales in the February year, according to the Real Estate Institute of New Zealand. For the 3 months ending February, sales rose 8%. 7 regions saw increased sales volumes in the February year, while 7 saw falls, including Southland. REINZ Rural Market spokesman Brian Peacock says in spite of climatic conditions affecting the greater part of the North Island, there has been good demand for dairy units throughout the country. More than 400,000 New Zealanders have pre-registered interest in buying shares in Mighty River Power. A 49% share offering of the state-owned asset is being made, with government to retain 51%. Other shareholders will be restricted to owning no more than 10%. The offering is not exclusive to New Zealanders, with up to 30% of the initial $2 billion public offering being marketed to Australian and other overseas investors. Almost 20 years ago, possum trapper Davey Hughes began making his own durable clothing, which then evolved into a business catering to hunters, trampers and farmers. He says it wasn't a natural calling, but his brand Swazi has now made it onto the global market.
Most of our business globally is over the internet, because we just think, hey, that's the technology that we need to use to touch our customers on a one-to-one basis. So we've gone direct. We've been doing that for about 2 or 3 years. It was kind of a big, hairy, audacious goal to set up the company and do it all online. And we see that's the way of the future. So,
as an entrepreneur, how have you got from A to B?
Well, a lot of luck, I guess. Surrounded myself with incredibly talented and organised people, and then my job really is just to motivate them, to give them the tools that they need to do the job. So it's almost like being a conductor in a symphony, and so all I've got to do is direct them and show them the way, and I allow them to play their instruments, which in this case is manufacture what I consider to be the best gear in the world and sell it all around the world.
Just talking about technology, you're down here in the south talking with some kids in the Nightcaps area and for a fundraiser for Takatimu School. What do you see with the issues that are facing kids today?
I'm one of those people that actually thinks that the kids today are far better than we were, a generation ago. So for me, I think there is huge hope for the future. And I see those kids, that are out in even the rural schools, and the technology that they have as far as, computers in the classrooms. Years ago it was like one computer for a school. Now each child has a computer or has a tablet. They all have smartphones, which is pretty amazing. So, they'll face new challenges, And I think one of those challenges is face-to-face communication with people as well. That's something which everyone text debates and sends messages, and I think as long as we don't lose that human touch of being able to communicate face-to-face.
You're an outdoorsman. What do you think that the kids of today are getting enough outdoors life?
My heroes, when I was a kid, they were explorers, but now my heroes are 15-year-old boys and girls who ride mountain bikes downhill. And I run. I've just done the coast to coast, and so I think I'm a fairly adventurous sort of a chap, and so I'll be running up a hill and I'll see these kids going down at breakneck speed and doing jumps, and I go, oh my God, there's my hero. And I just wish I was young enough and my body was flexible enough to do that, because our kids are getting outdoors, they're doing amazing things. Probably we tend to think, that we mollycoddle them a little bit too much, and that politically, there's too much legislation, and we want to have playgrounds that don't scratch and cut and do all of those sorts of things. Yeah, there's a bit of that, but the kids that are getting out and doing outdoor activities are doing amazing activities.
Kiwi spread Marmite returned to the supermarket shelves today. Manufacturer Sanitarium was forced to stop production and supplies ran out for a year after the company's Christchurch factory closed due to earthquake damage. At Windsor New World in Invercargill today, demand was unexpectedly strong, with a crowd of more than 20 people waiting for the store to open this morning. Manager Warren McKenzie says by mid-afternoon the store had sold around 500 jars of Marmite. He says supplies have not run out and more Marmite has also been ordered. Coming up in sport, we profile new Southern Steel defender Rachel Rasmussen. That's coming along after the weather next. From the news team, good night.